Hi creatives and welcome back to Agency Academy. Today I am going to talk about brand guides and why a brand guide is one of the best ways for you to get repeat work and make sure that your life as a designer is just way easier. And a brand guide is a document that I put together at the end of every branding project. And it's basically a way for your client to be able to have an overview of everything that you've created. And the point of it is to make sure that it just feels really easy for them to implement the brand in the way that you intended it to be. Because I know that you have had so many thoughts about exactly the way that they should execute it on social media, on their website. And if you don't hand over those exact instructions, it can be tricky for the person who's taking over to do it in the way that it was intended. I think having a little bit of extra time and effort put into your brand guides is a really good way for you to build that really lovely hand-off package for your client. And I've had a lot of people that actually come back to do more work because they feel like, oh, actually, you know my brand so well, it feels much easier to come back because we have this document together and because we have this relationship. So I think it can be a good investment. But speaking of that, I think that we need to make sure we create some sort of template for brand guides, because that way we make sure that we don't actually have to put that much time once we've created the brand into creating the brand guide once it's all done. So today I wanted to talk you through my brand guideline templates and just show what sections I include, why, and you can use it as the basis for your own. I also created an InDesign template for you that you can use. So if you want to grab that one, you can go to the description and download it as well. So the project that I want to share the brand guide for today is for a company called Remote Collective. They're a social enterprise that we worked with a couple years back, and they basically take different fabrics and materials that people don't have anymore. So like maybe they've donated it to charity, or maybe they just didn't really find a use for it, and they make amazing fashion items like handbags and clothes from this material. And so the biggest challenges for this brand was to make sure it was a community built brand. So they have lots of creators and volunteers, and they needed this brand to be easy to use in basically whatever format. So if it was embroidered, if it was stamped on something, if it was on their website. So it was a really fun project, but it meant that there were a lot of different applications. So I'll show you the different applications and how we thought about this when we put together the brand guide. So first of all, the cover of the design for the brand guide, the cover should really reflect the brand. So in this case, it's a very minimalist one, but in some cases we've gone all out. So maybe I'll put some examples on the actual cover here. Once we start getting into it, I just like to have some sort of impact image or something that is giving them a sense of the brand. So in this case, we have a label because it represents what their brand is going to be used for a lot, but it also has the pattern, the logo, the type. So I thought that was a good way to sort of give an introduction to the brand. Then I like to give a little bit of an overview of what is going to be included. And so this is something you can do also in the branded style. And I like to do this so that, let's say, a web developer or a marketing person could come in and see exactly what section they need to have a look at, especially if the brand is bigger. And then we go on to the logo. And I think it's nice to start with the logo because this is what people often talk about. In some cases, I've put, let's say, the mission statement and maybe even a little bit about the target audience or the personas in this. We typically create a very extensive research document, so that's a separate item. But you could put a little bit about maybe the tone of voice or about the mission of the company if that's something that you feel is useful in this document. In this case, I have the logo and I have the kind of lockup with the icon and the name. And then because in this one, we have also the collective, which is added, we've done that as a separate item. So in this first one, you just have the logo, which is something that is kind of an overarching thing. Because sometimes they'll be switching out collective for other things, like remote community or remote fashion week, something like that. So we wanted this to be something that is easy for them to switch out and just to show kind of the vibe of the logo with the extra text. Next up, we have this really fun application, and this is something that you might not have for every brand. But in this case, the logo was created with these really simple shapes, just to create a vessel for them to either sew it or paint it or fill it with a fabric or something like that. So it was a really creative way to just be able to have this in different styles and different patterns. So I just showcased some examples, and I think it's always good for all the sections to include a little bit like of an explanation, so that the person who is reading also gets the why of why you've made each design choice. And next up, we show another application of the logo, which is the stamp. And so we have either the letter R with the little text around it, or we have the sort of reverse or inverted with the stamp color being on the outside. And these are different ways that they can do it when they have applications like seals or stamps on packaging and stuff like that. Next up, I like to show the typography, and in some cases that just means the fonts that we're using and the typefaces. In certain cases, we might have hand lettering or other applications, but in this case, because the logo needed to be so flexible, we kept the type really simple. So I just list what the different ones are for and what they are, so that they're easy for the client to use. In this case, we also had a little bit about alignment. So the general alignment is to the left, but for those really small applications, they can align the text to the center, like a small label. So that's just a way to keep it super consistent. Next up, we have brand colors, which also seems like something that is pretty obvious for a brand guide. And I like to have kind of the purpose of each. So in this case, the key brand color is this yellow, which we call sunshine, and we put the hex code. In this case, they're not using print that much. They are printing, but they're mostly stamping. So we haven't included like the Pantone or the CMYK, but in certain conditions we do that as well. Then we have the backup colors, which are more for patterns. And then we have the neutrals, which are for things like maybe the footer of a website or background color, things like that. I just really like naming colors because I feel like it gives a little bit more personality to the brand. And if you, let's say, have different shades of blue, instead of just saying the light blue or the medium blue, you can say, oh, it's the ocean color. And I think it just brings a little bit more, I don't know, it's a little bit nicer to me. Next up, we have photography, and this can be super different. In some cases, it's really extensive, and we have lots of different sections. Like in this case, we have fashion photography here, which is showcasing the photography of a product, but also the photography with a person and the product. So giving some examples. And then we have workshop photography, which, because they're a community brand and because they are very volunteer-led, we wanted to give a little bit of this vibrancy feeling and some examples of what that could look like. In some cases, we have custom photography, and in some cases, we use stock photography. It really depends on the project and what it is that you're after. Next up in this case, we have patterns. And so in this case, we developed these patterns from the shapes of the logo. And so we wanted to show here that you can combine a few of the shapes together with, let's say, the logo and the stamp, but you can also have them as a whole pattern block, for example. And so we have a little instruction, for example, for when someone's creating a new pattern, to use the neutral colors as the background, adding shapes of maybe 3 additional colors. And so that you're not trying to make it too difficult for them, but you're giving enough instruction that the brand integrity is kept. Next up, we like to showcase a little bit of examples here. And so this is where I typically put mock-ups. If it's a store, I might be putting signage or what inside of the shop might look like. If it's a food delivery or a food brand, maybe it's a food truck or packaging or something like that. So I think it's nice to have examples so that they can visualize the brand. So in this case, we have some bags, some tags, some stickers, some packaging. And this is just to showcase how it all comes together. At the end, we always just put a little bit of contact details. And basically that's it for this one. I thought I would quickly share one more with you. So I just want to show you this one quickly, just to give you an idea of how they can differ, because I really think that putting the spin of the brand on the actual brand guide is also really important. So in this case, it's a very different brand. It's a marketing company for more sustainable brands, a lot of vegan brands. And so here we're also leading with a mock-up to give the feeling of the brand. And then we have sort of the colors and the type all customized to the brand itself. And we're showcasing the typography and showcasing the photography of the style itself. So we're going through the same sections of like the logo and different applications, the colors, the type. And in this case, you know, we also have the different color combinations for the type, because that can also be something that you want to combine. So sometimes you might have to customize a couple of different pages just to fit the specific brand. But overall, you know, you have these different sections that are going to be specifically created for the brand. So in this case, we have these shapes that we're using. So we're looking at how the shapes are being combined with photography and how the shapes are used by themselves. I hope you found that helpful. I think creating brand guides is such a fun part of the project because you've already come up with all the ideas, and all you have to do now is put together this beautiful document and hand it to your clients. So I hope this was inspirational, and if you want to use the template, then please feel free to go down to the description and let me know what you're working on. I'm super curious. If you have any ideas for videos, let me know. And if you like the video, make sure to hit the like button and maybe subscribe to the channel. It makes me super happy to see that so many people have come here recently, and I'm really curious what it is that you want more of. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck with your projects.